Hey everyone, as you're all aware, Windows 10 will be nearing end of life here in the next couple of days on October 14th. Now, I know it's coming up fast and people have been talking about it for a while, but there really is, there is a solution, right, if you don't want to upgrade to Windows 11. I know it's easier said than done, and, for some people it can be quite intimidating if you're not, very technical or very into computers, if you're just trying to, get something to work, right, that works easily within your tech stack, or if you're just kind of browsing the internet, you don't need all this fancy support, all these applications, right? So basically, what I wanted to go talk about today was a solution for basically not upgrading to Windows 11, but rather still keeping your old PC alive. Now, as we're all aware, and if you might have seen in the news again recently, Microsoft again announced that they're going to start blocking the bypass for having also an account for Windows 11. So basically, they're going to force you to sign in with the email, which is kind of BS in my opinion, right? It's not kind of, it is BS. So that's just another reason why you should not upgrade to 11, not just because of the hardware issues and stupid requirements, but if they're literally making it where you have to have an email to have a freaking operating system, that's just asinine in my opinion. So basically, I want to talk to you about a solution that you can do to get basically keep your PC working, but not have to suffer with Windows 10 being end of support. But before I get into it, the thing is, you still can use Windows 10. You just won't get as many security updates, and things will kind of slowly begin to break. It will be more gradual over time, but over time things will kind of slowly go downhill. But the solution, in drumroll please, for not upgrading to Windows 11 is to use Linux Mint. Now, for those of you, excuse me, who are not familiar, Linux Mint is basically a Debian slash, or not, excuse me, not Debian. It's a GNU slash Linux operating system. It comes from, I think, technically, actually, Debian, because it goes Debian and then Ubuntu, and then there's Linux Mint, which is behind that. It's basically it uses a lot of the core features and stuff like that. A lot of the other code, right? It shares it and builds it to make it a really user friendly operating system. So basically, Linux Mint, as you might be aware, it's probably the most beginner friendly Linux distribution. It's very simple. There's lots of support. There's a lot of people, making proprietary drivers, a lot of shortcuts, great community, lots of forums. There's r/Linux Mint. There's the Linux Mint forums. There's tons of resources out there, right? And it's also really easy to use. Now, basically, Linux Mint can come in a variety of different, I guess you call it, flavors. There's Linux Mint 22.2 Zara, which is based off the Ubuntu Linux distribution, and there's a couple different flavors. You can do like Cinnamon Desktop, XFCE Desktop, and Mate Desktop. Basically, these different desktop environments is what they're called. This is basically kind of how it looks, look and feel, and UI and stuff like that. So nothing huge, like if you're just getting into it, but it's good to know. Honestly, I mean, I like all three. Like I like Cinnamon because that's how I got started too, actually. But XFCE is good if you're really conservative on resources, and then Mate is nice too. Has a lot of cool features, and it's got kind of like a really cool, I guess old school, not old school, but like more of like a classic menu bar, I guess I could say. But the good thing is, if some people are kind of skeptical about what Ubuntu has done and where they're kind of going with snap packages and all that kind of stuff. So if you want something that's more, I guess I don't know how to call it, not more stable, but more, I guess, not even private, but just something that's not strictly Ubuntu based, right? Linux Mint also makes, it's probably my favorite thing ever, because that's how I got started. They make a Linux Mint Debian edition. Basically, as you can see, it stands for Linux Mint Debian edition. Well, what does that mean? It kind of alludes to it here in the paragraph, but basically, if Ubuntu is to ever disappear, right? If something happens, since they're a company, how are we going to continue to have Linux Mint? Well, they decided to just basically go off Ubuntu. So basically, Linux Mint Debian Edition is, right here for that. And it's very cool. It's very nice. I mean, it comes with just the Cinnamon desktop by default, but you can easily change it. Just a couple of commands. Linux Mint Debian Edition. It's great. That's honestly how I got started. I think I was on 4 or 5. It's really cool, and it's very stable, and under the like basically if you do like a fast fetch neo fetch it, the Mint logo shows up as like a Debian store, which is kind of neat. But Linux Mint Debian Edition, it's really good to start off with. But those are your options, right? Linux Mint or Linux Mint Debian Edition. Really simple to use. But I also wanted to show what it looks like here, and let me pull this over 1 second. Yeah, so basically here we can see that this is what they call like a live image. I just have it on a VM just for the giggles for the video. But basically, right, Linux Mint, this is kind of like what you'd get if you, after you're done installing, but Linux that Mint also lets you kind of have a live ISO to kind of test things out before you install, which is really nice. But essentially after you'd install, this is what it would look like. So it's very similar to Windows. As you can see, there's a taskbar down here with calendar, battery, volume icon, network settings, stuff like that. And then down here we got some things that are pinned right away, but you can add more things. You can add shortcuts. I think they call them applets maybe. Let's see. Yeah, you can add different applets, shortcuts, stuff like that. But the biggest thing is, right, a lot of people might not be sure, how do I install software? I'm used to, downloading an executable or, extracting a zip. How do I do that? Well, Linux Mint makes it really easy. It's not just Linux Mint that does this. A lot of other distributions do this as well. They have something called a software manager. It's basically kind of like your, I guess I don't want to call it App Store, right? So there's a lot of things you can download from here. And I know one of the biggest things, if you're like gaming and whatnot, I don't know if you want to get your like NVIDIA stuff working, they make a custom application you can download here that kind of helps walk you through the configuration, and basically, because since NVIDIA is proprietary, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. So it's a very nice tool, and there's lots of things in here that you can get your web browsers in here. I'm pretty sure, yep, you can get Brave. I'm sure maybe they got LibreWolf in here. Yeah, they do. But it does come as a FlatHub package, which is nice. Those are interesting as well. But lots of programs here, right? They got Discord, Spotify, and if they don't have something proprietary, more than often than not, you can find download instructions, and usually it's just a couple of commands if you're not like building from source or something. Should be pretty simple, but there's tons of stuff, and they even got games. I know one of the best games ever is Tux. I don't know if they have it. Yeah, Super Tux Kart. This game is awesome. If you ever get a chance to play it, you should definitely play it. But, that's basically it, right? The solution, a solution, not the solution, but a solution to you're not using Windows 10 anymore, and if you don't want to upgrade to 11, is to, in fact, try Linux Mint. Just try it. What's the worst that can happen, right? You can even try it in this live environment where nothing, there's nothing here. I mean, once you turn it off and reboot it, yeah, it's not going to be there. But you can try it in a live environment. You can try it in a virtual machine. You can have someone help you out, or if you want me to even help you out, leave a comment down below. I'll literally help you out, because for me, this is important, and I think it should be important for you guys too, that you shouldn't have to sacrifice your hardware just for stupid operating system requirements. But unfortunately, that's all the time I have for today. Please be sure to like, comment, and or subscribe. Leave a comment if you enjoyed below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.